There's simple things we can do, we don't do. And one of the reasons is we only want to do big things where there's big money for eating. Even organizing a marathon here in this country, the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Sports can't do it until Standard does it. Standard Bank.
Or Safari.
Until the Lewa Conservancy does it. Look at how stupid this country is. Just organizing a marathon. If you did this in a spectacular way, annually, in Eldoret or elsewhere, and all forms of sports, people flock to this country from across the world to come and witness raw talent. When I was in school, I learned something like comparative advantage. You do things over which you have comparative advantage. And also you start with the easier things. You pluck low-lying fruits. Why do you want to go into things that you have no competencies in and advantages in? Start with this football and just boys running. Boys are running, they don't want any investment. Just make sure we have sufficient stadia in the country.
And kids.
And small, cheap things. And they run and break world records even before they leave Kapsabet.
Now let's talk matters rethinking sports tourism and how, as a country, we can leverage on this front to attain some substantial gains with regards to boosting our revenue as a country. As always, my name is Richard Mwenja, your host here on Business Glide, and it's always a pleasure when you join us on board in this and any other subsequent edition of Business Glide. Right about now, to help me converse or rather dissect into this subject is none other than Kenya's most sought after political analyst and renowned public scholar in Eastern and Central Africa, Herman Manyora. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, Richard.
Looking good in a black suit.
Yes.
Very humble man.
Black jacket.
I see.
Correct.
All right, sir. We are talking about sports tourism. And when I talk about sports and the government's role in facilitating and upscaling the sports tourism, the person of interest who comes on board is William Ruto, Deputy President. Back in 2018, he came up with a Stadia pledge, and he was very vocal about it. Now, what will you say is the danger of the political of deceit and dishonesty with regards to talking matters talent upgrading in a country?
It's normal with the politicians to say this and do that. They say they campaign in poetry, but govern in prose. So making promises and not keeping them is part of politics.
I see.
Yeah.
You've seen the recent issue around the Kenya Football Federation and how political people, or rather leaders, jumped into the bandwagon and made some of their opinions and moves here and there. Will you say there is a danger in making political capital out of matters to do with youth's talent and youth opportunities in there?
Yeah, also that is always on the table. Things like those happen.
I see.
But if you are talking about Kenya Football Federation, I supported the move because we cannot be held hostage by FIFA.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Now, a country like Kenya, we are still facing issues with trusting the communication around the issue of sports tourism. We've had Najib Balala stay at the tourism docket for many years. He's a renowned and a seasoned tourism minister. This far, will you say he has made substantial efforts with regards to now revamping and revitalizing the state of Kenya's sports tourism?
You asked me that question sometimes back, and I told you he has done zero. Small countries and inconsequential countries, you look at how many tourists they bring in a year. Now then you look at Kenya with all these things we have, then we are just jokers.
How about now sports tourism?
Now, sports tourism is another story altogether.
Yeah.
We've never entered that. We've never done it. We don't do it. I've done a research on state of sports in our universities. You may want to know, wish to know. Apart from the University of Nairobi, there's there's no other university without, I think, if I remember well, in the whole of the Western region, there isn't an institution, leave alone a university, an institution with an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Swimming pool. So we've done nothing about our sports. Look at a place like Eldoret. If you put there an academy with a world-class stadium with other world-class facilities, it will be a source of serious revenue in terms of sports tourism. Serious revenue. If you remove Lake Naivasha from the grip of these pollutants, so-called flower farms, I know they employ our people. But if you chase them away and they made the lake clean and engaged in sports, lake tourism, lake sports and tourism,
Yeah.
you are talking of millions and millions of dollars in revenue. So we have never done anything about our sports.
I see.
We are kings in the track, in running. The world recognizes Kenya and Ethiopia, okay?
Absolutely.
Long distance. Just as we recognize Jamaica for short distance. Have we ever done anything? Have we ever leveraged on that?
Talking about that issue to do with athletes, if you go to E10 today, I've been there. If you look at the high-level training facilities in there, they are from the private sector, whereby our athletes who actually make a name on our behalf outside there, they have to hire such facilities, private facilities. However, the government has come on board each other time and saying, because our athletes have really put our name high out there, they are going to fully invest in them. Whatever they need, it will be at their disposal and so forth. Would you say, now that they are hiring these facilities from private developers, it's a case of mastery of doublespeak?
What can you say? I'm telling you, there's simple things we can do, we don't do. And one of the reasons is we only want to do big things where there's big money for eating. Just facilitating our young men and women to engage in sports from the grassroots. When I was growing up, we had football, even in village people, not children. Then we had schools. There was Kenya School Equipment Scheme that not only gave exercise books and things of that nature, it brought balls. You had balls competition at school level, at zonal level, locational level, divisional, all the way up to the province. And you could then tap in this talent. So there are many little things that have no cost implication. If the government during the budgetary allocation say, okay, this 30 billion, just 30 billion, which is 0.01 of the budget or something near that, I'm not, 30 billion. Improve things like the ones you are saying. Facilitate training for our athletes and others.
We'll be ready for takeoff.
Give balls to our schools. 10 years, Kenya is in the World Cup. They may not get the World Cup itself, but it will be there.
All right.
Yeah.
I see.
Correct.
The issue about sports tourism, the major bottleneck there seems to be issues to do with management. Can we now trust our higher institutions of learning not only to churn out this talent that we want to depend on, but also human resource capital that can take on managerial in a different way and revolutionize how sports tourism is done and conducted and managed in Kenya?
If you move in that direction, you'll have what we call sports universities, teaching sports science. Part of the things they will be teaching is management and administration in those areas, so that our young men and women don't fall prey and are not exploited by so-called managers from outside. We will have trained our own managers in those universities.
I see.
So you begin by improving sports right from schools, colleges, universities, and then you move it higher by going to the things we have said about those training facilities for athletes. And you are sure on your way to sports tourism.
All right.
Because the big things will be happening in this country. People will pay to come and see. Look, even organizing a marathon here in this country, the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Sports can't do it until Standard does it. Standard Bank.
Or Safari.
Until the Lewa Conservancy does it. And this, look at how stupid this country is. Just organizing a marathon. If you did this in a spectacular way, annually, in Eldoret or elsewhere, and all forms of sports, people flock to this country from across the world to come and witness raw talent. You have people running in Kapsabet, in a nice stadium, young boys from the village who have never entered a competition. And the people are looking at the stopwatch and say, God, you mean a primary school kid can do this? And they are coming to see raw. And you are beaming it through satellite and people are paying through digital space. And you are earning billions of dollars just from that alone. So this country requires big thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you look at the case of South Africa post the 2010 World Cup and look at the level of technology that has been advanced in that nation, would you say that sports tourism is one way or avenue that we can tap into for issues to do with technology transfer?
Of course, yeah.
How
Yes.
crucial is it that we go that route?
It's good because, and I'm talking about linkages with others. And as you link with others, you learn things, you benchmark, and you bring people here to do certain things that you cannot do. And there's technology transfer. And sometimes you have those capacities. Yeah.
I see. For the Kenyan setup, we seem to have an issue with diversifying our sporting activities. We are largely dependable on our athletes and probably football. Would you say it's high time we also diversify the discipline, take on new games such as judo, kabaddi and so forth? Probably there's so much talent that we can really sell out there. And also, if that's the case, then why do we seem to have potential investors shying away from taking these new waters of investing in such new sports?
When I was in school, I learned something like comparative advantage. You do things over which you have comparative advantage. And also, you start with the easier things. You pluck low-lying fruits. Why do you want to go into things that you have no competencies in and advantages in? Start with this football and just boys running. Boys are running. They don't want any investment. Just make sure we have sufficient study in the country.
And kids.
And small, cheap things. And they run and break world records even before they leave Kapsabet. You see?
I see.
You come on and
I get
those
it.
are the things we should basketball, what,
Lawn
tennis,
tennis,
we shall go into them
badminton.
later. Low-lying fruits, things you can do at the minimal cost, things you already know how to do, you are only being facilitated to do them better.
All right.
Correct.
I see. So what do you see portends the future of Kenya sports tourism, probably the next 10 or 20 years?
I am not seeing it taking root. Like I told you, I did a research in that area. Because first you must promote sports generally in the country, beginning from schools. Facilities. Once you do these things from school level, colleges and universities, point number one, you give them facilities. You encourage the culture of sporting, of appreciating sports. You know, there are many ways in terms of maybe competitions, awards, you know, scholarships based on sports. You just develop the culture of sportsing in the country and appreciating and rewarding sports. Then what will follow is natural. Sports tourism will just come naturally. You won't even have to do anything. It will just be natural because this is the home of talent.
I see.
Yes.
The very last, sir, if you are looking at tapping into probably foreign investors to come and invest in our sporting facilities here in Kenya and so forth.
Yes.
If you go by the route of looking at our fiscal prudence, this for regards to sporting, you saw the Rio Olympics saga and so forth.
Yes.
Would you say, how can Kenya strategically position itself to tap into the ability of having many people investing heavy investments into sports tourism?
You know, you cannot invest your money in a place of jokers. The government must have streamlined that industry for you to invest in that industry. Because the moment the government invests in this industry, streamlines sporting, it cannot have the cake. The pie is too big. There will be other players. At some point, the government will play a merely a facilitative role with the private players playing the bigger role. But you must streamline the industry. People must see sporting is working in this country. A culture of sports has evolved, of people appreciating, of rewarding sports. And then other players have now come. If government has done something in Mombasa, and an investor looks at that and says, this thing is successful, I can reproduce the same thing in Kisumu. Then an investor will invest in Kisumu, what the government has invested in. And within a reasonable short time, other investors will have invested as far as Turkana, Lodwar.
All right.
Yeah, on Lake Turkana.
Very well, sir, and thank you for those insights. That takes us to the wrap of conversation here today on Business Glide, touching matters sports tourism, how we can revamp and revitalize the issue of sports tourism in Kenya and make sure that in the near future, we kind of generate the much needed revenue, not just for the national government, but also our youth tap into this arena as a potential source of employment, that is self-employment. For Fan of the Week, we go all the way to Kitale, a gentleman by the name Kirwa Chumo.
Kirwa, habari ya Kitale, we appreciate you so much, Kirwa. Continue being part of the family and bring more people on board.
All right, get posted on our subsequent editions of Business Glide that come your way every Monday and Thursday here on Herman Manyora channel. Also, make sure to get this conversation going beyond here. I'm at Mwenja Richard on Twitter, at Manyora on Twitter as well. And also keep tuned to our other editions. That is Political Conversation with Jadiel Kabiro, Simon Irungu coming with a big question, and so much more on this channel, include the public opinion, where you get to voice your issue and concern around the world of politics. Until next time, God bless you. My name is Richard Mwenja. See you soon.